I have in my collection some Christmas houses that need a little bit of TLC. I find it hard to pass these up at garage sales and flea markets, even if the condition is poor. These have been knocking around my house for a few years and they're starting to really fall apart, so I'm going to be rehabilitating these today and making them a little bit nicer so that they'll last. The first thing I'm going to do is clean them, except for these two coconut houses. The collector groups call them coconuts because they look like coconut cake, but the flossy coating is very fragile, so I need to be a little bit careful with those two houses. The rest of the houses I'm giving a light cleaning with some cornstarch and a soft brush, and this will dislodge any dust and brighten the surface a little bit. All three of these houses had glittered surfaces and were able to withstand this cleaning. I'm going to be replacing all of the windows and doors, so I'm removing any remaining scraps of the old cellophane and paper doors and windows. Next, I'm repairing any structural damage with a clear drying glue that I'm spreading on with a toothpick. I have a couple areas that have cracked, and so I am taking a piece of chipboard wrapped in wax paper to use as a splint while these things dry. I'm just clipping it all together. Several of the houses are missing their bases, so while my repairs are drying, I'm cutting out new bases from an old chipboard box. Now I've made some decisions about my two coconut houses. I've decided to remove the white coconut coatings, which have yellowed and are very, very dirty. So I'm scraping that off, and I'm going to be applying new white paint and snow while retaining the really beautiful red colored floss in the other areas. So this will be a mix of old and new. Each house is going to get its own treatment just based on what I think it needs. Some are going to get some new paint, new glitter, and some are just going to get touch-ups. This blue house is so discolored that I am going to repaint it and apply new glitter to it. So I'm trying to match this color as well as I can. Once I get a color that I think matches pretty closely, I'm adding a little extra white because I always try to keep in mind that acrylic paint dries down a little. It's always a little bit darker once it's dry. So I'm just brightening it up a touch. And then I'll be mixing in some white glue because I'm going to be painting and applying the glitter at the same time. The glitter that I'm using for this is fine grain glass glitter in clear, and this is very similar to what was on there in the first place. And I'm applying it with a salt shaker so that I just get a nice thin layer and the color of the house will still show through. Now this house has the added rarity of a gradation, which I think is really charming and beautiful, and I don't want to alter that at all. I'm going to preserve that just as it is. The glitter is in really great condition on this as well, so I'll just be adding a base to this house and preserving the rest of it. I'm switching out my glitter to my snow mix, which is 50-50 white and clear mixed together. I'm starting off with just white gesso, but then I'm going to add a little bit of ivory. This color is called buttermilk, and that's because I don't want the white to be too stark against the houses. The whites are no longer white anymore, they've yellowed a little bit. So I'm also going to add in a tiny little dot of black paint to bring down the brightness of the white. And again, once I've got my paint mixed, I'm going to add a glug of glue so that I can glitter right afterwards. My goal is to emulate what was there before, so I'm just trying to stay in the lines of what the original maker had done. For the snow, I'm applying the glitter with a spoon so that it's nice and thick. Most of these houses are probably about 80 years old, and the glass glitter is perfectly authentic to that time period. It has a beautiful texture and sparkles unlike any plastic glitter that I've seen. This house has a unique glitter coating, and I'm not wanting to change that at all, so I'm just going to touch up the areas that have been damaged with a little bit of paint that I've done my best to mix to match. And with a little brush, I'm just painting in these little spots and edges. I struggled to decide what to do with this little house because it's a bit odd. It has a hole in the back for a light but has no openings for doors and windows. I considered opening those up, but in the end I decided to just go through with a little brush and try my best to touch up the design. The painting was not done well in the first place, and I don't really see the need to change that. But I just went through and dabbed in a little bit of color and got a liner brush out to redraw the windows. These are the replacement doors and windows that I'm using for the rest of the houses. I sell these in my shop. They're printed on vellum, so they will glow when you put a light inside. They're easy to cut out, and they'll fit most houses of this size. I'm starting with the most difficult house, which is the one that has the base attached, because that means I'm going to have to insert these through the hole in the back of the house. I'm using a little brush to paint the glue on the inside of the house, and then I have a pair of tweezers that I'll be using to help position the windows inside. And now with all the windows in, I'm going to attach the houses to their new bases and give those a coating of snow. Well, I am really happy with how these turned out. They look similar to the way they did before, but they are sturdy and clean, and they look really lovely, and so I'm excited to add these to my village this year.